Welcome to the November 19th, 2025 meeting of the Cook County Housing and Redevelopment Authority. First, I'd note the presence of a quorum of their commissioners, Olson, Hanson, O'Brien, Lamour, and Gabler. Also with us, Commissioners Gamble and Sullivan from the County Board, and we thank them for their participation and their support. First, we have approval of the agenda. Any additions or subtractions that anyone wants to have?
It looks like at one point, Andrea Toffey might be coming in to talk a little bit about healthy homes. She has a small presentation that she wanted to also include.
Well, let's just include her, at other, either commissioner's business or committee reports.
Maybe when she pops in?
Yeah, that'd be great.
With that addition, I move to approve.
I'll second.
Moved and seconded. Is there any further comment on the approval of the agenda? If not, say, those agreeing say aye. Aye. Opposed. Approval of the October 15th, 2025 board meeting minutes.
I'll move to approve those.
It's moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Any comments on the meeting minutes of October 15th? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed. Opportunity for public comment. We're going to simply delay that a little bit. We have a member, we believe a member of the public will be coming shortly, so we'll let that occur as it should. For new business, Resolution 2520. Jeff, would you take us through that, please?
Yeah, back in April, I had a conference with Whipfly, which is an organization that previously did a market analysis for demand for senior living in Cook County. Their last go-around was over 10 years ago, so the information is somewhat dated. And I asked them if they could put together a new perspective for what it would cost to update that plan to 2025 and 2026. They gave us a 5-page response letter with some information. It was at the time $14,500. I did bring that to the board in May, and that was right before we got to having a good discussion about the strategic planning that we had in June and July. And so at that point, just to remind everyone, we kind of put this aside for a little while we had that conversation. Ended up being that when we did the strategic planning, that senior living and elder housing became one of our top 5 priorities that we wanted to focus on in Cook County. And so I'm bringing this back up now after having a couple of more conversations with the joint Grand Marais Economic Development and Cook County Economic Development organization here to see if maybe we couldn't partner together on this study. It's a $14,500 study, and I made a resolution up for $7,250, which is half of the total cost, with the understanding that we wanted to have a conversation about that again today. And if you do feel comfortable with passing the resolution, I will go before the EDA next month and have a conversation about that. Now, if that's not something you choose to want to do, that's fine too. It's just really one of the things that we wanted to have a conversation about today, and so that's why that is before you today.
Any comments or questions or concerns about a joint proposal?
Was there any sort of cost sharing the last time there was a market demand analysis?
So the last time that there was a market analysis, the HRA didn't exist.
Oh, right.
And so it was EDA based, and at the time, I believe they covered the full cost of it. Mm-hmm. The argument can be made that we are talking about creating jobs and also housing options for people in the community that we don't have really any of now. And so it's a good balance, I think, between housing, which HRA, of course, is our bread and butter, and of course the jobs and economic development, which is the EDA's purview.
Sounds like a good pitch to make to the EDA.
I think so.
I'm not a fan of this. Just in my public opinion, my personal opinion rather, it just seems really expensive for what's basically publicly available data that's not very accurate when it comes to Cook County. You know, they're gonna look at how many seniors there are over the age of 65, and then they're gonna have the penetration of the, you know, needs for that, which is, runs at whatever, 30%, and they're gonna give us those figures. We can look those up ourselves. Plus, it's gonna be the same as the last study we had, basically. Our population hasn't changed. It's aged a little bit, so probably add 2-3 units, and you're good. And I think, you know, if we have $14,000 to spend, $14,500 to spend, let's give it to Anna Hamilton to subsidize one of her houses. Money much better spent, in my opinion. But that's just me. I will gladly assent if the board wants to go along with it. It just seems like it's easier to study than to do, you know? And I'm kind of in do mode at this point. We know we have a need, and whether it's, you know, and in my opinion, these studies always come in a little low because of just the nature of that study, you know, how they, no, nothing against WIFP, but, you know, they're not from here. They do kind of a standard study they do everywhere, and we have a lot of local knowledge, and with the studies we've already had, it's, it just seems like a waste of time, in my opinion. I've really looked into it. I'm very on board with having good data, but I think we have good data in this case. And I think also there's some demand there that's just going to be missed by a study. And that's just my opinion. I could be wrong about that.
Commissioner Gamble.
I appreciate you letting me make a comment on this. I know we had this discussion previously, coming onto this board. I think that the best information you can get is what you get at the local level. I think the generic information, as you reference, it's things that we can get that we know. I think, and this is my comment previously, I think if we went out into the community, if we learn the nature of the questions that get asked, or if we specifically can anticipate based upon our demographic, I think that by holding meetings locally and getting the input from the people, we can take the generic and marry it with the actual, and that will give us a better, more direct indication of where need is and affordability and meeting that need at the level that is defined by our constituents.
The question is I don't recall I don't know the details of the previous study that was done. You said it was back, when was it done?
Over 10 years ago, yep.
And was it granular in terms of defining the need for these specific categories of, you know, assisted living and memory care and so? Okay. So this would be basically turning the crank and updating those numbers based on the current demographics.
Yeah, and what it does is it really puts everything into a report that's not just useful for us, and really it's not very useful for us. It's useful for the people who want to come here and build and create a business model out of this. And so, you know, those people probably don't live in Grand Marais, they probably don't live in Cook County. We're looking at creating a new opportunity with new developers that maybe, it's a very specialized type of world. There's a lot of regulation around it, and so for that reason, it's somewhat difficult to start new business models like this in other locations. But given the fact that up here we do have an interest, we do have a need, we're currently exporting to other locations, people who live here and reside here, it get good data, I believe, to the developers of the future that are going to maybe be looking at an RFP. If we do an RFP, one of the first questions is going to be, do you have an analysis? And if we don't have that, one of those things that really is going to restrict or limit who bids on those proposals is going to be if we don't have that.
I don't disagree with the points that have been made. I mean, there's probably going to be more demand, and prices have certainly gone up in a decade plus. But to Jeff's point, I mean, sometimes there are seemingly obvious scientific studies that are out where the general public response is, well, of course, that study concluded this. But in order to move something else forward, sometimes that seemingly obvious study is required. It sounds like, Jeff, what you're saying is this is kind of the case where there is going to be some subset of potential developers where they're going to ask us for this data, and if our data is a decade plus old, that would be a headwind.
Yeah.
Yeah, may I speak? I think a study like this will probably work against us in that scenario of going out with an RFP to known, we've been down that road. We went quite a ways down that road with the Spectrum company. They were very close to actually building an assisted living facility here. And then they backed out, I think partly market conditions, partly they didn't feel like the people, they could find anybody to work there because they wouldn't be able to find housing, ironically, and, or not so ironically. And actually, I think in terms of other developers, I know other developers that were approached looked at our numbers and just said, too small. We need, we need 60 units, we need 70 units to make it pencil, which, makes sense. I think if we're gonna do this, we're gonna be doing it with a much more local focus. We'll kind of be doing it ourselves in a sense, obviously we'll have to reach out for expertise and maybe even, maybe eventually have an outside organization come in, but we're gonna have to do a lot more groundwork than do a study to make this happen. I'd be willing to write down today what that study's gonna say, and I'll bet you I'm close. I bet you I'm within 10%. And again, if we have $14,000 to spend, let's spend it on something a little more immediate. But
Well,
maybe I'm just being cranky about it, but it just rubs me the wrong way.
your opinions count whether they're cranky or not, and you're entitled to them. But I agree that the purpose of a study like this might be helpful to broaden the field of who would come here to do something, or even locally give enough support to provide some action. And I would, if we were to proceed with this, I would encourage the Whippley to use the local resources here for the basis of information and get the views of people like Commissioner Hanson or Commissioner Gamble. And I mean that in a sense of that would be some local color and local concern. And I just think 10 years, without updating data is probably too long. And for what, and I wouldn't disagree that we might not have 90 units of assisted living need or anything like it, but the fact that we'd have any is, and the fact that we don't have any assisted living after all this time is a reason for me to try to move something forward that might help. And I'm not quarreling about the expense here, but I don't really see much option that would be an outside opinion on that I think might be useful to outsiders. And so I would support this, but with the caveat that Whiffley does some in-depth work with some of the commissioners who have been through this before and have some experience with it.
Yeah. One thing I would add to the discussion is I did add part of our actual housing study to this, page 6 of it, which talks specifically about senior housing demand for 21 to 26. And so it does talk, even in our housing study, about the need for certain data points. We need some 10 to 15 housing units that are subsidized, they're affordable. We need some market rate assisted living, 30 to 40, memory care independent, congregate, rental space, that sort of thing. And so we do have some data points to choose from, but if you want the locomotive to come through, we have to build the track, I think. And this is one of the ways that we can build a track to get the locomotive to stop here.
Further comments? Is there a motion to approve Resolution 2520?
I'll move to approve.
It's been moved. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Been moved and seconded. Any further discussion on Resolution 2520? Those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
Motion carries for Resolution 2520.
Okay.
Next is Commissioner discussion on the future of parcel 25029-145, formerly known as Temperance Trails.
Mr. Chair, I see that Andrea Tofty has come, and maybe we
Sorry.
want to go to our public comment.
We'll go back to, on the agenda, to opportunity for public comments, and welcome Andrea Toffey.
Yeah, go for it.
All right. Well, hi, I'm Andrea Tofty. I'm with County Public Health, and I coordinate two programs. One is the Healthy Homes Program, and then the Age-Friendly Initiative. So with the Age-Friendly Initiative, we have gathered information from our community in regards of what are the top priorities for our older adults. And then housing comes consistently as a top priority, mainly because of the age of the homes, and then the needs of aging in place, needs for modifications, for insulation, and just to have a safe environment as they become older and with more accessibility needs. So we would like to bring this forward, that we are hoping to continue working with the HRA to bring the age-friendly lens on planning for housing development, and hopefully continue to seek funding to support projects that address energy and envelope improvement for the homes.
Commissioner Sullivan.
Yes, I'm wondering if you could make available the report that you put together for all of the HRA commissioners.
Yes.
Is it this, we have a.
Yeah, if you could do it electronically, I'm just thinking, so for minutes, we could attach that.
Yeah, I can do that for sure.
Well, thanks for your comments and your leadership as well on this whole subject, and I think I can speak for the board generally that we're in favor of finding more money, more opportunities, especially to expand what we started building on a really small scale, and we know that more needs to be done, and we've just got to keep knocking on doors for funding to enhance that. But anybody else have a comment on this?
Just a question. Is the focus of the age-friendly action plan also, does it overlap with the focus of the Healthy Homes Initiative or the Envelope Improvement Program? Is it focused on the housing quality and energy efficiency and so forth?
It does overlap. So in the report that you have in front of you, there is a specific section for housing. There's a table there, and one of implementations. Oh, I can't speak right now. Actions that we are going to implement are continue to work with the HRA and the other housing partners, which CCLEP to now is one of the Healthy Homes partner, and finding resources, most likely funding right now is what we need the most to continue supporting the work that we do. So I have, in this Healthy Home cycle, visited about 30 homes. About 15 of those have been older adults. And most of the repairs or the improvements that I bring to them are resealing windows or replacing windows, replacing doors, closing gaps where there is like air leaks, fixing roofs. There is a lot of rodents or animals that come in the roof in old homes, and then older adults are not. It's harder for them to maintain the home, so the houses deteriorate kind of in a more rapidly way, and the ages of the home, some of the houses are quite old and need a lot of attention.
So is the age-friendly program then a sort of a subset of the broader housing program?
No,
or does it have elements that aren't related to housing.
Yeah, I'll tell you a little bit more about the age-friendly initiative. So because when we did the community health assessment, we note how 30% of the population in Cook County is 65 and older. And so for that, we need to, have the infrastructure in place for our older adults. So with that, and not only housing, there are other top priorities for under the domain of livability so they can live well and age well. There's healthcare, transportation. So housing comes as one of those priorities. And then we able to get a grant through the ARP in Minnesota that joined the age-friendly initiative. And so they granted money to counties that wanted to bring the age-friendly initiative. So Cook County has become an age-friendly county. So with that what it means is bringing the age-friendly lens into all the planning and public health work and county work at large. So then the goal was to gather first the information from the community. So we did it through surveys and forums, and then to find the priorities and then create an action plan. And then the action plan is where I have the housing
Got it.
portion.
Okay, thanks.
Mhm.
I have forwarded all the information that she sent to me in that document to all of you, so you all have it as well. And I asked Jana to add it to the website for the meeting today as well, so it should be available to anybody who wants.
Commissioner Gamble?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. I just commented, it was presented to the board in the Public Health Human Services, and it's a good study. It is specific to the things that we were talking about, reflecting our community. And I think when it comes to the housing issue, another part of what I think the study indicated that 20.9% of that senior population is a single population. And so when we're looking at facilities, understanding that affects two things. It's how facilities are designed, and it affects affordability based upon resource with a single family home, so to speak. The other, so it's
Can I
multiple
interrupt?
lens.
When you say single, you mean a single person?
Yeah, an
Okay,
individual.
okay.
Yeah,
Just wanted to
an
be clear.
individual.
Make sure I was
Meaning
tracking.
living alone.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so as I'm sure we understand, it's a multifaceted thing when we're looking at this in the context of providing housing. It is who's our audience, and when we talk about, I think the umbrella for this study, which is age-friendly definitely should influence design and the things that are put in place for that particular demographic. So it is that meeting that audience need, and it is the financial need, and it is the environmental need. So when you look at through all these lenses, then you come out with a product that we really thought this through in the context of those different perspectives.
I'd have to say, just looking at our board, the county is age-friendly. But I appreciate your comments, Commissioner Gamble, because you're right. A holistic approach to this with a number of different lenses is really helpful. And we did such a small start, and we know that a lot more needs to be done. And affordability is always an issue that we need to be concerned about.
Absolutely.
Any other thoughts, or?
Yeah, just one quick thought. I mean, this continues to be one of the issues that we care a lot about at the board, as you can tell, and so we'll try to find out any means possible that we can fund these going forward. We're not completely exhausted on the funding yet, but we're getting very close to it with the last signatures of the last month or so. And so we'll be creating a wait list, I believe, is the next step until we get some more funding. But in that process, it's still important that we keep getting some funding into the engine to keep this driving, because it does help an awful lot of people in our community. And that investment is local investment.
All right, thank you very much. Appreciate your presentation and your work.
Yes.
And leadership on it. So back to the future of parcel 250291425. AKA Temperance Trails. Jeff, would you want to?
Can I start with just kind of a basic
Go for it.
idea that we stop calling it Temperance Trails?
Yeah.
Because that's
That's a
kind of
good idea.
associated with failure at this point.
Yeah.
I think we should go back calling it Birch Grove property.
Okay.
If everybody's in agreement with that, I think that's.
That's fine with me. I've been using parcel number just so we have
Yeah, but
something.
just for the sake of community conversation, parcel number doesn't do any good, and Temperance Trails just confuses people. Even in Tofty, nobody knows what that is.
Yeah, okay.
But
Birch
Birch Grove
Grove.
property, they're like, oh yeah, we know what that is.
So Birch Grove property it is.
If
from
everybody's
here on.
agreeable with that, I think it would be,
Yeah.
make their life a lot.
It's a good point.
Yeah.
It's a good point.
So now is a little bit of a time for discussion and dedicated time for the Birch Grove property. See, I learned fast. And so, honestly, you know, we've had a little bit of time to separate ourselves from the previous discussion about this property. And now it's time to really kind of start figuring out what the future is going to hold for this property. I did create a memo, it's in your packet, of a couple of different options. I did also include a couple of maps. One includes a map that kind of shows a little bit of the easements on the property that kind of help somewhat encumber some of that property from development. Including then, there's also a camp site as well that the Birch Grove School uses inside of the boundary. That's been mapped out and set aside by the previous HRA discussions for this site. And so the real question is, where do we go from here? Now, we could do nothing, but I won't advocate for that. But that is an option. We could say, well, forget about it. We could give it back to the township and let them try to figure it out. We could create a request for proposals. We could be very specific. I have a lot of great conversations with people locally and regionally on this particular issue. And I've got a lot of good information about things we could add to that request for proposals and be very prescriptive and see what we get back. We could cast the net wide and see if anybody is interested. The third option is perhaps that we roll up our sleeves and get out and start pushing the car down the hill to get it jump-started. And that could take on a lot of different ways and looks and shapes and sizes. We could get out and start building the infrastructure. We could build a road, shared septic with hookups, shared well with hookups, create lots, delineate these lots for sale, and work with local developers or whoever wants to build sites. We could work with a developer who wants to build, you know, we could dedicate this to a specific builder. We could have them create 3 different types of designs for us. And as a prospective buyer, you tell us which one you want, the builder builds it, we sell it, that's it. Or we could take any other combination of that hybrid conversation of getting out and pushing, so to speak, in there. The biggest thing is that I know the community itself has been wanting housing in this area for an awful long time. Chair Gabler and I went to talk to Schroeder Township and Tofty Township separately last week, and both of those townships are very interested in housing. Tofty Township is very interested in still continuing with the HRA to get something going. They had a couple of things that they wanted for us, very prescriptively in terms of price and size, and kind of the target audience, so to speak, not single family, but single family, young families to move to that area of the county. And so from there, we could do a lot of different things. But realistically, you know, it's kind of one of those things where we have to come to a consensus. That might take some time, but I wanted to have at least the conversation to start today.
Well, I'd add on, first we went to the Schroeder Township Board, and they're interested in it because it's adjacent township. And but I did mention the site that Minnesota Power had given to the HRA. It's up back in off the Highway 61 a ways.
On the Kramer Road.
Yeah, and Jason Hale put that out as an RFP, and we got absolutely no response and to that. And so I just point that out for one thing. If it's going to be an RFP, we really need to do more groundwork than just put it out, here, come and get it, is my reaction to it. And the Schroeder Town Board mentioned that they had done something similar to what option number three is here, that themselves with a parcel that they've subdivided into the lots and sold them individually and felt pretty successful with it. So that was of interest because it was kind of just more background for thought. The other idea here, it seems as though what we're looking at would be a perfect Rosso site, and that would, I think, help us accomplish what the township wants. Township specifically said $200,000 sale price for a single-family home for young families. Well, that, you've got to work that back, but possibly if you start with the normal assumption that you're going to buy a lot for $50,000 to $75,000, including the sewer or the septic and a well and everything else, and plus the lot price. First of all, we can offer these lots at about $2,000 a lot, based on $40,000. That's what the township would like us to do. So that's a starting point. Whether anybody can get down at $200,000, I don't know. But the other option that was mentioned by the township board was the idea of pre-built homes, and that it might be a site where those would work very well, and they could be done, more effectively than stick-built. And to be honest, reality with stick-built is, even if we provided them for local contractors, I don't know who could take them up with any time. But I'm just free association here of what I heard and what my impressions were that lead me to think that it might be worth an option. But it would be a different step for the HRA to be an active participant in preparing that site with engineering work and design work of the basic utilities and I guess actually the water system's already there, the well's already there. But I just want to point it out that this would be a change for us as a board if we went that way. But my own feeling is, having seen the experience in Schroeder, if we're going to do an RFP, we really need to do more legwork than we did that time around. But there's a lot we can offer here. So,
This is,
other comments? Commissioner Henson, who's
Yeah.
a long time.
yeah, I've been involved in this for a long time.
Tofty
Back when I
Township
was a treasurer of the town board for 13 years in Tofty, and this was every meeting I went to on the agenda. First of all, I think the comparison to this and the RFP with the Minnesota Power property up on the Kramer Road, really apples and oranges. There is much, much better location. You got a school right there. You've got, grocery store 3 blocks away. I mean, it's a much, much better deal. And also, a lot of the work's been done. Am I incorrect on that? But when I was on the Johnson Foundation board, we funded a wetlands study for this property.
Yeah.
So that's done, presumably, right? We don't have to do that again?
Right.
That's done, and aren't the lots sort of cited already? Sort of?
No.
I mean, the wetlands are delineated, right? That'll tell you
Yeah.
where the lots go. to some
Wetland
extent.
delineation is a federal thing through the Army Corps
But
of
we have the
Engineers. That's done.
we had the
Yeah.
the preliminary land use plan, right, was done, rejected by the county with a list of things to do.
Yeah.
But we have that. That's a starting point, right? What else do we have?
And we got the easements defined also.
Yeah.
That was a lot of work, and there were
Yeah.
some that were kind of a surprise.
So we're ways down the road in
Yep.
pre-development costs, which is an advantage, I think. I think we need to keep that in mind and not redo that stuff. It's expensive. And then, then we also have the additional thing to think about with the 80 acres of county property that now is contiguous to this, that the county is at least shown some interest in perhaps donating to the HRA at some point to make this, which I think also adds a lot of desirability to a developer that might want to come in with the idea that there might be a phase 2, phase 3.
Yep.
So I think it's a huge opportunity for us. This may be a good time to bring up, I was just at breakfast with Gary Latz from the Community Real Estate Group, the Community Real Estate Fund, and who's been acting as the manager for the Heights. You all know Gary, right?
Yeah.
And so we were just talking, it was a social breakfast, but we were talking, just the two of us. And I said that I had, again, social conversations with people at the Land Trust at One Roof in Duluth, where they had, a couple of years ago, they were saying, well, we just can't work in Cook County. It's too far away. We want to sell our land up there and kind of be done with it. We'd love to work there, but it's just doesn't work for us. And they've kind of changed their tune, and they're kind of saying, well, we didn't have any luck selling our land. We've got this land. There's other land available. There's other opportunities. Maybe we should go the other way, where the Land Trust comes up and does some significant more projects, and then they could actually have a staff person up here. Because that's, the problem is now they have to drive up every time they want to do something. It's just too far. So they're interested in that. So I was telling that to Gary, and he said, oh, yeah, I think there's a lot of opportunity for that, and maybe in a partnership with the community fund, maybe in a partnership with the HRA. So I said, well, let me give you Jeff's contact information, vice versa. Well, I butt dialed Jeff by accident when I was trying to send it to Gary. And so I said to him, sure as heck, Jeff's going to call back in 2 minutes, and he did. So he's like, so I said, oh, sorry, I butt dialed you. He goes, I know, but I saw your name, and I thought, well, we'll talk anyway. But, so he said, what's it about? And I said, well, you really want to talk about it now? And he said, yeah. So I proposed this idea of a partnership between the community fund and he's interested. And so I think it's later on the agenda. We have bringing that up to now I've organized a meeting with Jeff, and I'm willing to go. I don't think Gary's included in that. He should be in that meeting, and with the One Roof staff to kind of look at and it's not to decide anything. Obviously, we have no power to decide anything. It's just to talk and get an idea of where people are at, what they're thinking, and what some of the possibilities might be.
Well, but that's the kind of groundwork that wasn't done on the Schroeder parcel and
Right,
that,
yeah.
and, to get the community involved in it, I mean.
It was not a desirable
Yeah.
piece of land either.
No,
It was
I know that.
It turned out to be a very undesirable
Yeah.
piece of land.
Well,
So
gravel pits on either
I think there's
side
a
of it.
lot of potential here, and I think we should, my opinion is we should not just offer it as is, as another RFP. I think that would be kind of the lazy way to go and not very effective, and I think we should start exploring, as we talked about in our strategic planning, exploring maybe more of a development role for us, maybe not being the developer, but getting into partnerships where we have more input and more control, bring our expertise and connect that with other people's expertise. And I don't know that the Land Trust would be interested in this property, but they might be. I think primarily they're interested in the property they own right now, doing something with that, which is fair enough. But, there's a lot of possibilities here, so.
Commissioner Olson?
Yeah, I think the land trust model is the thing that we should be promoting for affordability purposes alone. I mean, it's probably the one singular thing that can make the difference in this marketplace. Especially for beginners, in real estate, first-time home owners. It's a fair way of entering the market. And the more of that we have, the more affordable housing we're going to have, period. And they are the people doing that, One Roof housing. So I would support that for sure.
Yeah.
Commissioner O'Brien?
I just am enthusiastic about the one idea that you mentioned, which is looking at this parcel as a potential pilot scale project, a demonstration of the ROSA, a combination of ROSA and the modular and the prefab housing. I mean, I think that there's a.
Does this qualify for ROSA?
It's too close to Lake Superior.
Yeah, I think
I just checked the map.
Does
Yep.
not.
Is the 80
It
that's
doesn't front a
adjacent?
county road. There's
Okay. Well,
a
that's
number
it.
of reasons, although, I don't know. that just means that we have to get a variance, right?
I know that
So-
the one, that the designer that produced the modules for the Heights project, I've seen on the website, they've got a, standalone module home that's that's designed to be Energy Star compliant, and I just think that would be intriguing. It would also meet the expectations of the desires of the communities to get something built faster than and just demonstrate progress. So it's unfortunate that it's not in the ROSA zone, because this would be that would have been a pretty interesting pilot.
I think the concept stands, so,
Yeah.
I think that'd be.
Well, I knew there's going to be a lot of great conversation, and I know that some of the things that, I just want to point out real quick, so Northfield did a project very recently called Hillcrest Village, and I have this for you here. This is a 17-unit affordable housing community that was created in November 2020. And there was a whole bunch of different electric rebates that were in place to kind of create all electric homes for that community of Northfield in this village. Now, I started having some preliminary conversations with Arrowhead Electric, because they're just up the road from the site we have. And they're looking into it. So we'll find out what they have to say in the future about something like this. I'm also having a conversation on Friday morning with Phil Anderson from the Center for Energy and the Environment, and he's attached to this document as well, if you have any questions about how this went. Did they use pre-built? Did they use modular? Did they kind of suss out more details? In terms of the conversation about our previous designs at the site, a couple of things. Neva Maxwell and Land Services suggested we blow up any designs because they were kind of incorrect. We'll say that. And really some real questions about whether an engineer was really involved in some of that decision-making about the septics and stuff like that. And so we have the delineation, that's done. We know where the wetlands are. We know where the easements are. We can kind of go forward from there. That's true. And we could be very much more thoughtful about design. We can go into trying to find a way to make Roseau work for that site and work with our county commissioners and planning and zoning folks to make that happen. The one caveat I would point out is that if you're looking at this site as phase 1, the 80 acres is phase 2. If we're building more than 25 units, because it is within that real unique Lake Superior watershed, it does require an environmental assessment worksheet. That's not something that's prohibitive, but it's something that will cost some additional money for us as we go through this process. In terms of land trust, it's a unique opportunity. The one thing that I would say is maybe not unique about the site for this particular instance is that if we could sell the acreage, if we could sell those lots individually for $2,000 each, and so whoever buys the property buys the land as well, that builds instant equity into the house as well. So it might actually help when it comes time to purchase or to get a mortgage, that sort of thing as well. It's a way for us to help subsidize the cost of the development and get closer to that $200,000 range. Working together with whoever we work together with gives us access to the same things that we have had access to for the Norris Skogan project or the Heights with IRRR or Minnesota Housing Finance Agency. It gives us some real opportunity to further subsidize these sites. But the one thing I want to point out is we need 610 units of housing, and this doesn't get us anywhere close to where we need to go. But what it does do is, I think, provides a real opportunity for us to say, here's what we want as an HRA. Here's the kind of construction we want. Here's the kind of amenities that we want to provide to the people who want to live here in the future. And I think that that gives us an opportunity to really push levers and buttons for the better of the future of housing in Cook County in a unique way that we otherwise may not have an opportunity to do.
That's well said, and I agree. I think the argument against subsidizing the property for the first-time buyer is that it's just a gift to them. It's not a gift to the future.
Sure.
So it makes their resale all the more valuable, but they'll get the full value of whatever the property's worth when they resell. Whereas in the land trust model, that's kept out in
That is fair.
perpetuity, which keeps it affordable.
Can you explain the land trust model? Do they retain title to the land?
Yeah, so it's a nonprofit that holds title to the land. By the way, One Roof is
Okay.
very well-established, very successful. I think 350 units built or something
more
now.
than that. Yeah.
Yeah, or maybe more.
And
500,
people
yeah.
who are
They have a
living in
national-
those units here that were built in
Yeah.
Grand Marais
Yeah.
love
Yeah,
them.
that's right.
It's a real success.
And they're no stranger to modular building.
Right.
Yeah,
Fair.
and they're, but anyway, that's, that's more of a granular
Well,
Sure.
argument, but.
Yeah.
But I think it's, I think in this case, it would be really appropriate for us to sort of dig in on a more, which I think could be a way of moving forward on senior housing too. I
Oh,
think
fair.
that's how that's going to happen. Actually, the very first proposal here was for senior housing exclusively.
Yeah.
Those plans are still in my office. They're on the wall. I put them on the
Yeah.
wall so that people
Yeah.
can see that when they walk in.
So it, and, yeah, so it's and I think actually it would be, probably a bad idea to limit it to young families. I'm not sure you can even do that legally. And I think probably
fair.
you would get a fair number of seniors moving in.
Well, one of the
here.
ideas
Just
that
like
the
just like the
township
land
was,
trust thing here is.
yeah, was to have some senior housing there so
Yep.
that people could sell their homes.
Right.
And,
Yeah, make
and
those
it's
available.
one floor type of units side by side was one idea that the town board had
Yeah.
for providing some of
Good,
those
I'm glad.
units and
I'm glad they're
along with the
thinking that
young.
way.
Yeah, no, they're not just exclusively to $200,000 for young people. They want a mix, but they really do want to attract, young families.
So I guess the
as
next
a
steps would be
priority.
sort of, if we want to take it to the design stage, at least in terms of the layout, who's going to do that and who's going to pay for it?
Well, I did have a preliminary conversation with Ben Olson over at Logum Construction yesterday afternoon. And there are some folks, I think, that are very educated about this project. Not so much used car salesmen, but more of, this is what you're going to need to know going into this sort of thing. And Ben was very helpful in terms of just giving us an idea of where we might be headed, hard costs, soft costs, and that sort of thing. Whoever we work with is going to have a design fee per unit, and so we'll have to calculate that into the final cost of a product. Some folks, like the HRA or whoever we might work with in the nonprofit sector, there'd be less, I think, of a desire to make the ultimate amount of profit on a project like this, and so that might help with some of the cost as well. Some of the organizations that are out there that build this sort of thing also put together different types of grants for housing as well. And so there's a lot of folks to choose from. There are a lot of names. I got a lot of names from Ben in terms of designers and architects and civil engineers. And so we do have some idea. The one thing that I would suggest is if we are to, let's say, prep the site and then have folks develop, let's say we could get 16 units on that site. So maybe we were to work with individual construction companies to build 3 different houses here, 4 houses over here, and come up with some sort of a community of different projects, different looks, different feels to housing. We could do that too. And so it really is kind of a sandbox. It's kind of unlimited in terms of where we want to go. But I just want to make sure that we're focused on maybe a date for today, at least for the discussion. And so I know a lot of folks, 2026, they've already figured out their year 2026. They've already got dedicated contracts and that sort of thing. If we look at 2027 for construction, then we can kind of work back and try to find people to schedule 2027. But also we can create a shovel-ready concept that we can start looking for funding for through our regular avenues for funding as well.
Jeff, the IRRR had committed $100,000 to this
Yes,
project originally, and
yes,
do we have to turn that back?
yes. By the end of this year, we have to turn that $100,000 back. Yep. That's a contract between them and us. We were awarded that contract. The argument could be made if we had a more cohesive concept that was more shovel-ready, perhaps we could even get some more money than that.
Question, what was that money devoted to?
It was for road,
Okay,
infrastructure, water, and septic.
Okay, that's what I thought.
Yep.
Well, I'd really like to encourage further movement along this line, and actually, we've had a couple ideas that I think specifically the local partnership, I'm not a member of the local partnership, so I can push that without any conflict at all, and I think
Well,
the,
and the way that would actually work, before you go on,
Yeah.
sorry to interrupt. In talking to Gary about that, he said that the plan for the community fund right now is to, get the Heights up and running, make sure that's a success. He's sort of actively looking to sell the second phase of that and not do that as a community fund project. But, that's up in the air.
Yeah.
But in any case, wrap up the Heights and then sell both the Birch Park building and the Heights, which was the plan to begin with. Pay off the investors with their handsome profit. And then dissolve the organization. And that was kind of the plan from the beginning. But that's not to say that if there were a project on the horizon, we could do the same thing again, probably with the same people mostly. You just start again from scratch, and we've been through it once, so it'd be easy to do.
I'd like to encourage those conversations, because I just looked at the local partnership as really a good resource here.
It's a great resource.
And, able to act also. Not all those efforts
Yeah.
come to
One
the
thing-
kind of action that.
One
that
thing Gary
we put
mentioned is, he
together.
said, if it goes that route, then he'd like to see like a 5-person management group
Right.
for the next project, not the 1-person management
Yeah.
group that's on it now. Now, some of that he brings on himself, I have to say, but
I wonder how he
he's-
sleeps sometimes, honestly.
he's a little burned out. And I don't blame him, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, he loves it too, but he,
Sure.
and that's very fair for him to say that. And actually, that's a stronger way to do it, is to have a group with expertise.
Well, and the conversations carry on with One Roof Housing as well. I mean, I just think,
Just to throw in there, Benjamin Olson is an award-winning architect whose designs are being repeated and repeated and repeated by One Roof Housing in Duluth. And,
Great.
and so I encourage continued conversations with him and potentially Logan too, because they are a home manufacturer.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And they
In Duluth.
yeah, but I think all of the, Ideal Homes has been built a lot of One Roof's housing in the past. So there's a whole bunch of knowledge within this group of people we were just talking about.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yep. That's very fair to say. There's a lot of knowledge, and thank goodness they're here.
yeah.
And we can lean on them for expertise and perhaps partner with them.
And developers, I don't really feel like we are in a place where we, the HRA, can be the developer. That's
We
out of
could,
our, well,
but it would be a big,
it would be a
big change.
a huge change, yeah.
well, my concern in keeping this conversation alive and pushing it forward is that I committed to the town boards that we'd keep them posted along the way, and that really hadn't happened for the last couple of years while the existing developer was there. And
How about we reach an understanding, at least today amongst us, that we're targeting the 2027 construction season for construction,
That-
which would mean getting everything else done in time to make that happen, which would be, that'd be ambitious, I think.
it'd be good.
Ambitious, but doable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If
That
we
would
keep
mean
on.
that the head would have to be on the swivel for different opportunities for grants and that sort of thing. At some point, we're gonna have to shop for a developer, At some point, we're gonna have to figure out, And so, you know, in having the conversation with Ben Olson, he said, I'm not gonna be that developer. You'll have to find somebody, but I'll work with the developer. And so, you know, there will be some opportunity for us to look at developers and,
Well, if we have that understanding,
yeah,
that's your marching orders then to start heading in that direction. If
fantastic.
the board is comfortable with that.
Anybody not comfortable with that? Let's put it that way. So I think you got your marching orders, John.
Okay,
This would be a great win if we, after 30 years,
Well,
actually pull this off.
in a community that's really tried hard to do something for quite a while, and I think, and it's also a good market as well. I mean, there's a lot of activity in Tofty going on, and
That's where the need is, honestly. I mean,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah, it is.
60% of the economic activity in the county is in the west end overall, so that's where, the only reason we focused on Grand Marais is because it has a water and sewer system, frankly. I mean, there's a need here too.
Yeah.
I'm not dissing Grand Marais, but we've done way more work in Grand Marais than elsewhere, so.
yeah.
well, let's move on here to other business, director's report, HRA conflict of interest form.
Add that to the list of things I forgot to bring. So you'll find one of those in your inbox, and if you need a printed copy, you can stop by the office. But it's that time of year where we have to do the annual conflict of interest forms. Redpath, Megan gave me the document, and so I'll send it to you all. So that way you'll have it, you can complete that, let's say by the end of, well, by the next meeting, the last meeting in December, if you want to make sure you can get that to me by then. I'd appreciate that. That was the HRA conflict of interest form. The next one is a presentation. Last Wednesday, I was invited by the mayor, to provide kind of an overview of what the HRA is up to and to answer any questions and that sort of thing. So, you know, it was a great opportunity, I thought, Mayor Benson, we had a conversation. It was about an hour long, actually, at the beginning of November, and it ended up with a conversation about, well, why don't I invite you to a upcoming city council meeting to give a presentation? So that just continues to further along our partnership. I see the city as definitely a partner in housing. You know, I think if you look at the city itself is somewhat limited by what they can do in terms of utilities and providing utilities for expansion in our community. And they have some sort of a map for utilities. Maybe that isn't entirely comprehensive. It definitely isn't electronic, that's GIS. And so there's some opportunity for really between, I think, the HRA and the EDA and the city and the county to participate in different ways to provide those resources to get a little bit more of a sense for where utilities are. That will help spur some discussion about future growth in the community. That will get some geographic blocks of Grand Marais shovel-ready, so to speak, which in turn definitely could be part of a conversation at the state level about being shovel-ready and getting some funding for the expansion of their water and sewer and electric as well. And so, and the next conversation I wanted to talk to you about was the future joint meetings. I kind of threw this out to Mike Roth as just an idea. He thought it was a great idea. I've since talked to Councilor Gary. He asked me for some more resources about where do we get money at the state level to help Grand Marais continue to build out utilities for future growth. And my question to him was, well, is there anything shovel-ready? If not, maybe we should partner in a way. Maybe we should have a joint meeting between the HRA and the city and maybe their planning and zoning commission, and be less formal, but more of a conversation about ways that we could partner and concepts and ideas for future growth in Grand Marais. I really think it's a good opportunity for us to work together and to show that we have that idea. And I don't think it's something that we could just do that's unique to Grand Marais. We could definitely have a conversation with all the townships as well. And I think that that's something we should do too. But as we start looking at ways for us to get at that comprehensive housing plan for Cook County, I think that this also builds the track for that locomotive to come down the track down the road. And so, if you're interested in that sort of thing, just nod, give me a thumbs up, something like that. And I would be definitely happy to work with Mike to make it happen in the future. I'm thinking January, February, after the holidays.
Makes a ton of sense to me.
Concerns?
Okay?
Smart. I think that
Okay.
is that.
Is, in terms of conversations about that, that was one of the conversations. Another one I thought of is maybe there's a way for the Planning and Zoning Commission to be swapped out with the Utilities Commission here in town to start talking about utilities and facilities and that sort of thing for investment in the community. The legislative session's gonna be coming up pretty soon. The next meeting, I plan on having an ask for you all, what would you like to see as part of a legislative agenda? I'll come up with a couple of ideas from NARO, from the National Association of Housing and Redevelopment Organizations. They'll have they're thinking about legislative stuff. We've got some local requests for some resources for capital investment and that sort of thing. And so from there, I think we could really have a conversation about local priorities, statewide priorities, and definitely the things that we want to advocate for as well. Because that's coming up in February of next year already. And they have a short session. It's a capital investment year. Part of that conversation will definitely be centered around money for the wastewater treatment center here in town. So, with that, that's all of my updates in particular.
Thanks, Jeff. So we got financials attached.
Nothing remarkable there.
Looks like we've got money and,
Just normal expenses.
yeah. Committee reports, well, I think Commissioner O'Brien just gave the Finance Committee report. And we also,
Yeah, well,
Okay.
did we submit that to the other commissioners also?
No, not yet.
I was
Okay.
just gonna talk through it and describe.
Why don't you go ahead and talk through it and.
Sure. So one of the things we talked about before was developing a dashboard of the different projects, what financing has gone into the different projects, and we had talked about the value of including the, not just the subsidy money that's gone into these projects, but the total amount of investment that these projects represent in the county. And so Jeff has pulled together some information on 4 of the projects. I can just go through that quickly, but I think it tells a good story. I think the next step will be to take this data and begin, charts and pictures and so forth to make it into more of a marketing piece. But Gunflint View, total investment was $11 million. There was a total of $1.2 million in public financial support, and then $400,000 in local purchasing. So the 11 million total of capital investment, 400,000 in local purchasing. The Heights estimated 9.1 million total investment, $230,000 in local purchasing, and the total public's financial support was less than $1 million, $875,000. Hamilton Habitat, $950,000 total investment, almost $800,000 in local purchasing, and the public monies to support that was $100,000. So roughly 1.7 million of investment and purchases in county for an investment of public investment of $112,000. And finally, the energy and envelope program estimated total 50,000 total invested, and there you've seen a sort of a 1-for-1 in regional purchases. So the money that's gone in has gone to local vendors to buy windows and so forth for the program. So I think it's a good start. We'll continue to massage it to tell the story, and Jeff can put it on the website. And
It'd be good to update on the website also, Jeff, because it's been a while since we've done that.
Yeah.
Yeah, the website is almost, I've seen a draft of it, it's almost up and running, and it'll be brand new looking. It'll have new information on it. One of the projects you don't see here is North Skogan, because we really don't have figures about the structures themselves, the 12 structures that'll be on that site. But if you drive over there now, you'll start to see that there's some work that's being done. That represents that funding from the IRRR. It represents our matching funds as well. And so as those start coming in, we'll start asking for reimbursements from the IRRR. Hamilton Habitat, their homestead project, that invoice came in, final invoice from KTM. I sent it off to IRRR. We should be hearing back soon. So the money's flowing in and out, and we continue to finalize finished projects, scratch things off the list, and work towards the next project. So
14 new homes in Grand Marais, significant.
yeah.
That's a win.
And any update on Bjorkberg? At one point, we were going to submit an app to IRRR for that as well.
Yep, the application was submitted, the city's 150,000 and the 220 from the developer side, 370,000 total. October 24th was the deadline, we got it in on the 23rd. The city was really helpful in getting the information I needed to add the city to that conversation, and we're still waiting to hear back from them. They want to have a meeting in December. Looking at my calendar, November is already halfway through. So I imagine I'm anticipating some good news here soon.
I think that's the end of committee reports, and commissioner items, I've already done my share, and I did have to correct the executive director. I am not the president, I am the board chair. And
Commissar.
Oops.
I know, that title doesn't apply. So, but we're Commissioner Hanson for a 1% update.
Yeah, there's a little bit of activity there to report. Jeff and I met with Aaron Jensen, who has built a B&B and, well, built a home, but he's putting it into short-term rental in Ludson, on Whiskey Hill Road, I think. And he had contacted us previously, and Jeff had kind of sent him to me because of this 1% idea, and he was on board with it. He had kind of pledged to give us 1% of his direct bookings. So when you list something with Airbnb, the company, or VRBO, the company, you can also book that unit yourself directly. And then you pay less, you don't pay the commission, basically, so you make more money. And so people apparently do that, and as time goes on, as a property has been in the short-term rental market for a while, more and more direct bookings come in. So he said, I'm going to give you 1% of my direct bookings, which will probably be almost nothing in the first year. And so we met with him. He said, actually, it was even less than he anticipated to be, so he just wrote us a check for $500, which was very generous, specifically to go into our development fund when we put that together.
Yes.
So very nice of him, nice guy. He's also has recently formed a partnership with somebody that's got development experience, and they're interested in doing more development in Cook County and very interested in workforce and affordable housing. So we kind of gave him a whole brain dump of the landscape in Cook County, more than he wanted to hear probably. He actually is just in the process of moving to St. Louis, but has been a long-time visitor and is interested in becoming a developer here. They're looking at lots of opportunities, so it's far from a sure thing, but it was a good contact to make. Real nice guy. Cares about this community, so that's nice. And as I say, generous and I think that'll be ongoing, that contribution, so that's nice, as small as it is. And then Jeff and I also met with Eric Frost, the general manager of Bluefin Bay, to pitch this idea. It was a good meeting in the sense that we, again, really went through the landscape of what's going on with housing, what's going on with the HRA, which I think he said numerous times that he didn't say no, but he didn't say yes either. So, but it was a good conversation, and we'll continue to meet with resort owners to have that conversation and see how it goes. He made some good suggestions of other people we could talk to, And
Do they have, does Bluefin have worker housing, and what do they do
Yeah.
for housing there?
one of the things that he brought up right away is that they've kind of solved that for themselves. They've invested, I don't think he actually gave us a figure, maybe it's close to 4 million, I think they've invested in worker housing. So it's,
A lot of units.
they did the first worker housing in Cook County about 25 years ago at the Tofty Heights, I think they call it. It's little, multi-unit, sort of side-by-side. They look like condos, they're not condos, that they have had for all those years. It was a Minnesota Housing Finance project, but they actually bought it out, paid it off, so they wouldn't have to live with the Minnesota Housing Finance restrictions on it. Could be more flexible in how they use it. But it's always full and useful. And they've bought houses in Grand Marais as well for their housing in Schroeder. And a lot of the resorts have. There's been a big investment in the West End in worker housing, so. And I think that's good, that's very good. However, that doesn't house the nurses and the teachers and the deputies that need to take care of those people. So that's another, that solves the problem for them in a sense, but doesn't solve the problem for the community. So we still have a good pitch, I think, for having people participate. He was really interested in our development fund that we're creating as a nonprofit, which makes it more advantageous for them to donate to it. And pretty clearly indicated that they would be interested in doing something for that fund, if not a service fee, something, just maybe straight corporate giving or some other scheme, but.
Well, our authority motto is all contributions gratefully accepted.
Yes, of
It
course.
doesn't matter how they come in.
Of course.
But thanks for the work.
I do
Bill.
have one other quick story that I just heard today. So a local organization hired someone recently, and they had kind of tipped this person off to a place to stay, which was nice, a rental place. Then another one of their employees was moving out of because they found a better rental space, and then it fell through at the last minute. This person accepted the job and it fell through. They have to move out of the place they're in by December 1st. So it's like, disaster. And in the past, that person would have gratefully accepted their 4 days of pay and left the county. And instead, they went up to the Gunflint View and rented an apartment. So not ideal, but it kept them here. So that's a win as well.
You bet.
It is a win.
I saw that the skeleton at Great Gunflint View came down. So
Yes, just in time for Halloween. It's there all year, and then on Halloween it's gone.
I think I saw it. It's just bundled up now. It's got the hunting jacket on now.
So that's my report.
Thanks for your work on that, Commissioner Hanson. I just would note and give thanks to Commissioner Sullivan for leading the community leadership meeting last week and did a nice job. My only regret was that I didn't stock up on the goodies when I had walked in there, because it was a complete array of outstanding treats. But it was really, Jeff and I were both there representing the HRA, and the EDA was there, and it was a pretty good representation. There are more members than were there, and so hopefully in the future there'll be more encouragement to increase attendance. But as the time, for example, I hear about the hospital work directly from Kimber. That's a really, that's good to know, and they just bought their own housing as well, and so it's good to stay on top of that thing. But Commissioner O'Brien Sullivan did a nice job, and then I committed along with Peter Clissold that we would host that meeting in July jointly. We don't know where yet, but
Probably either here or City Hall.
I was going to say, this looks pretty good, but City Hall looked better in a certain sense. But anyway, just so you know that we do want to participate, and we do want to do our share as well on that. Any other comments, thoughts, Jeff?
Couple of things, but I wanted to invite Commissioner Sullivan to give just a few brief comments about part of a conversation they had at the commissioners level about temporary housing.
Yeah. We had an opportunity yesterday, some of you may have, if you were really bored, watched the committee of the whole. It was a long one. But one of the things that we did is invite Andrew Beavers to come and talk about vacation rentals. And if you'll recall, back in 2023, there was board action to create a half-time position to oversee vacation rentals. And we had at that time, a lot of things in the community about vacation rentals are impacting the cost of housing. They're taking away a lot of the properties that people here could live in. And so one of the things that I would suggest might be nice for this group is to have Andrew come and speak to you about those things, because they had a committee of 22 people that met for months talking about vacation rentals, developing the ordinance, and the competition for housing here isn't vacation rentals, it's second homes, More than half of the housing in Cook County is second homes. And many of not all, but many of the vacation rentals are very expensive units that are on Lake Superior that those of us who are workforce people are not going to be purchasing, But anyway, he had a lot of statistics, talked about the fact that the numbers have creeped up a little in the number of units that we have in vacation rentals. And that would include some that are in resorts as well as some that are individual units. But when we hit 388 units, what that does is trigger the committee to get together again to analyze all of the data related to vacation rentals. And he suspects that might happen in late 2026 or early 2027. But anyway, I do think it would be interesting information, a short presentation for all of us, just so we have that data and information and can share it with the public when we get asked those questions. But he's done a really nice job of getting most of the unlicensed vacation rentals licensed. It's increased revenue for the county. His position is paid for by the fees that are collected. And I was doing some research because, as Commissioner Campbell knows, we're looking for money right now. Imagine the county doing that. And I was thinking about, we'll raise the vacation rental fee. We have the highest fee in the state of Minnesota. So that's not something we would look to increase right now, but I think the licensing has improved. There are going to be laminated cards put into all of the vacation rentals with safety information, phone numbers beyond 911, who do you call if you have a flat tire, if you need a tow, if you happen to slide off a road in the winter, things like that. But there will be a lot of information that will be added in 2026 to all the vacation rental units in terms of just wildfire safety, evacuation, a lot of different things. And then lastly, one thing I wanted to talk about is just to create an awareness, the trailer court, the Pine Mountain Trailer Court has sold. And I don't know who
And you
it.
share to who?
I don't know.
You don't know.
I don't have that information. But, I would like to do some research, and I certainly will do my share to find out if it's going to be maintained. And that's an important piece of housing for a number of people in our community. It's really important. Also know that I had a call from an investor from the Twin Cities who is interested in that and interested in expanding it. Was very impressed with how well kept it was, how well managed it was, and I am still in conversation with that person. But anyway, it has sold.
Yeah.
So,
It'll be interesting.
Watch that space.
yeah. And then lastly, just impressions of the tour today. It was dampened a little bit by the rain and the snow that was falling on us.
Really poured right then.
It was not the best of conditions, but we did have a chance to see a studio, a one, and a two-bedroom, all very nicely appointed. Carpeting was in, blinds were in some of the units, countertops are installed, they're still waiting for appliances, and some of the flooring to be put in, but the units will be available starting in January, a number of them. Right now, they're working on balconies this week. And after they get the balconies done and the patios poured, then they will do the fencing on the lower level. But, I mean, it's really amazing to stand in one of those ground level units and think, here, you could open up your door and let your dog out. It's just really thoughtful, and I know I've talked to community members who are so excited about the second phase of the project and potential for a daycare to be in there and all kinds of things. So it was just really nice to see the excitement and the enthusiasm for our second recent apartment building, and so glad it's moving forward. Chris and Jeff, were there
Yes,
other
I-
impressions you have?
Well, similar, and, you know, and I was just listening a lot, and I think that, because we know a lot of the details about
Yeah.
what's there and so forth, but it was just interesting to listen to other folks on the tour, and I'd say, by and large, initial reactions were very positive. You know, it was just the units appeared to be quite spacious. The one, you know, the one bedroom in particular got a lot of comments about how really generous the size of the bedroom is and the size of the living space is.
And I think those 9-foot ceilings make it
Makes-
feel
makes a
really
big
large.
difference, yep.
And part of that also, from what I understand, is so that there's airspace between units, both on the sides and up and down, for sound purposes. So it really deadens some of the sound.
Yeah, I noticed that you could, if you look carefully, you could see the gap between the modules. And
Yeah.
So that's, I'm sure that's good for soundproofing as well.
Absolutely. Jeff, anything you want to add?
Well, you know, I just think it's unique. It doesn't matter if we were in June or November, it's the same weather. It's groundbreaking, or it's cutting the ribbon, but realistically, it's just, it's a wonderful opportunity. Listening to the radio, the WTIP conversation about Vea and their family moving to the space.
Yeah.
And talking, Gary was talking about how Vea's family has different themes in the house, and they want to get a cat someday, and it really brings the humanity to the concept. Concept, if you build it, they will come, and sure enough, they're there. And they'll be moving in soon, probably in January sometime.
Everything's going to fill fast.
And the conversation begins again. Where do we go, and what's the next one? We still have that need for 610 units, and I'm glad that this is done, but there's still room for more. And where do we go, and how do we do, and who do we work with? And it's going to be exciting. Yeah, a lot of gratitude, I think, this year for Cook County, because of course last year we didn't have 86 units of apartments, and this year we almost do, and that's a big improvement. It really is. And so. The other thing I just wanted to briefly point out is, if you haven't yet, Empty Bowls is having their fundraiser down up yonder tonight,
5 to 7.
5 to 7 p.m. I was there at lunchtime. Wow, it was packed, and wow, it was delicious. And I even got a bowl to remember the occasion. And then the ribbon cutting was really excellent. And I guess the last thing I just wanted to part is to say Happy Thanksgiving next week. I know we have a lot of gratitude for our community and our partnerships, and I look forward to continuing with that as we look towards next year as well.
That's pretty well put. Honestly, there's a lot to be grateful for in Cook County, not just our wonderful environment here, and which I'm sure has added some time to my life being up here, and but to the partnership that so many of the organizations are willing to enter into. I mean, I heard from Public Health here today, and that with the window of the energy improvement stuff, there's so much more can be done, but I'm confident that with the partnerships that we're able to forge here, we'll be able to move on. And that kind of reminded me of one last thing to ask about, which is Birch Grove, or Birch view?
There's so many birches, it gets.
Yeah, this is, how is One Roof doing?
Oh, yeah.
With their renovation of that?
Yeah, I did get a request, and it'll be on next month's business meeting agenda for an extension. The federal government got back to work again after having that furlough for over, well, the longest furlough in history, and of course, those projects didn't get done yet, and so we'll be coming back to ask for an extension of that. So we'll talk about that next month.
Okay.
But, yeah, it was one of the things that they were kind of disappointed on. They wanted to already kind of be done with it. But the USDA is still working on it, and so we're just good partners in that conversation
Good.
about refinancing for them, so.
And I would ask you to add Andrew Beers to the December agenda.
Okay.
If he's available. I think that's a great suggestion.
Okay. I did make a request for our regional demographer to come to our January or February meeting. And so as we start looking at opportunities to bring more people in, I want to bring them in and make sure that you guys have a good education about what it is we're fighting for and fighting against as well at the same time. And so demographics are one thing, we'll have some conversations about, that was a good conversation. I didn't actually know that Andrew did what he was doing, so that was a fantastic conversation for me to learn about. I didn't know the West End had the most amount of vacation rentals in the entire county. I kind of thought it was Grand Marais, actually, but I was surprised by that. But at any rate, good information, and good information for you all to know about, too.
And just to make a point, Andrew does not, as vacation rental coordinator, he does not deal with compliance with the city of Grand Marais. That is a separate program. Everybody make sure that the city of Grand Marais' vacation rentals are not part of Andrew's work here at the county.
Well, Andrew's from the West End.
Yeah.
And
Has vacation rental background.
yes, and has town board background and everything
Yeah.
else, so good resource, so let's bring him in.
Sounds good.
Any other thoughts, comments before we adjourn? If not, is there a motion to adjourn?
Move to adjourn?
It's been moved, is there a second?
Let's do it.
I think that's a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries that we're adjourned.
All right.
This back.
Brady needs his pen.
Okay, I'll take it back.